here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when future videos are out. And I was thinking about Marvel Legends, and having collected this from the start, that in the 20 plus years of its history, on this list I'm going to talk about 50 characters, most of which have never, ever received a 6-inch action figure at this point. And a few of them even had a 5-inch action figure back in the Toy Biz days. But we have yet to see a Marvel Legends representation with modern technology of these characters. So again, most of the figures I'm going to talk about have never had an action figure here in this scale. A few have, but the quality was so low back then that we need a new version. It's time, okay? So, here we go. First, Marvel Legends always likes to do variants of the popular characters. Meaning, another Captain America in a different costume, another Iron Man in a different armor, things like that, because it's easier to sell to the public because they're popular characters. Well, let's start with that. They know the 2099 universe exists because they have the Spider-Man character in that costume. Well, here are some top characters in that universe that have never got an action figure, but deserve one. How about the Punisher 2099? And then you could have Doctor Doom 2099, who had a unique armor and look. The Hulk 2099. Then you have Ghost Rider 2099. You have the X-Men, which was a whole team of 2099. But a few of those characters were standout, and even one of them at least had a 5-inch Toy Biz figure. They could even make Ravage 2099, because not only did he have a comic book, he was one of Stan's last co-creations. So I think that deserves some recognition. So that's 6 characters who have never got an action figure at all so far. And then let's talk some X-Men, X-Force type characters. How about Random? He was an X-Factor character who had a fantastic visual look designed by Joe Quesada. And then Marvel dropped the ball storytelling-wise and didn't develop the character properly. But he had a nice, unique look, and he had a 5-inch Toy Biz figure. I think he deserves a 6-inch figure. But then we have another popular 1990s character called Exodus. He was kind of like the second-in-command after Magneto. A very unique 1990s look. He had a 5-inch figure, but has never received a 6-inch action figure. I'm going to talk about some of the X-Force characters. How about Kane? He was an X-Force. He had a unique look, especially his first appearance costume. And then you also had the first appearance costume and the unique look of G.W. Bridge. And then if you want to go a little more obscure, we have Grizzly, who was this red, huge, beast-like character who had a 5-inch action figure. They could even go so far as to make Gideon. Even though he's not popular, he did have a 5-inch action figure, and he was a character who had potential, but again was never developed right. But I think it would be pretty cool if he had one. We had a Strife figure, which I would probably have to reissue because it's been so long, but he had a bunch of followers called the MLF, the Mutant Liberation Front, and quite a few of them had some unique looks. So just like the X-Men 2099, if they want to do some MLF members, I think that would be pretty cool. Guardians of the Galaxy, the original team, members in action figure form. And we already got Vance Astro, but there's never been a follow-up yet. How about Charlie 27, Modern X, the comic book look of Yondu and Starhawk, who was a popular character, and I think he also had another half, like the female, like, what's her name, like Alita or something, and they deserve, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, they deserve some action figure treatment. And the comic Yondu had a 3.75-inch figure, so they know the character exists, but a 6-inch scale of the original team would be pretty nice. Now we're going to jump to a bit of all over the place in terms of character-wise, specifically in terms of different books. How about Thor in his 1980s armor look with a beard on that fantastic Walt run of the character? That was a uniquely, nicely done costume for its day. We get some new warriors, a character called Neymar. She was actually one of the last creations of Bill Everett, who is the creator of the Submariner. Well, later on, eventually, he had made this character called Neymar, so it would be nice to get some representation of that character. And I'm talking her original look, not that later 1990s blue-skinned, weird look costume redesign. Don't make that, okay? If you want to go also into that obscure, pretty low range, is how about Jack-O-Lantern, his version 1 original costume look with that round board he had. Jack-O-Lantern, the original look, was a very nice design from that version 1. And all these other Jack-O-Lanterns that we've had 2 figures since, they've not been good costume designs. They've not been classic in terms of a design sense. That even though he's had 2 figures before, to me they never captured what should be the right look of the character. And that is Jack-O-Lantern original look that he had. And speaking of a redo, we need Adam Warlock in his Infinity Gauntlet look. Now, sure, we had that 2 Adam Warlocks in Marvel Legends before. I didn't like that modern take at all. I thought that was a garbage design. And I didn't like the Red Hulk Build-A-Figure Adam Warlock. It just was so low quality, and it cannot compare to today's stuff, that he really needs a new figure. He had a very nice 3.75-inch figure with metallic red. That it's time to upgrade. As I'm making this video, maybe this figure is planned to get made. I don't know. But I think there's a high chance we'll get Adam Warlock in the future. If we want to talk more cosmic, I'm going to talk a couple of characters here who Marvel cannot make because they're not popular and it would cost too much money. Eternity and a comic book Celestial. How awesome would that be? With Eternity, you know, I'd say go back to the Toy Biz days when they made Genis Captain Marvel variant. He had a translucent blue plastic. Something like that I would like to see for an Eternity. I don't think Eternity should be solid plastic. He should maybe have like a translucent black or a blue or a dark color shade to him. But I just don't think a solid color would do him proper justice. But again, it would be such a unique design and such a unique look. I mean, this reminds me. Remember back in the Toys R Us days when you'd see some of these like 18-inch or 36-inch monster figures, like Star Wars would have him, or WWE, where they're very huge, but they're like $50 or less. They only have like 5 points of articulation, and they're meant for the general public. And you know what I'm talking about, I think, if you remember it. You know, they would just be on like a cardboard stand, no plastic shell, just exposed out in the open. in terms of the packaging. And you'd have these figures, they would just be huge, 18-inch, 25-inch or more. And they're just basically statues, but they're just so big, but at an affordable price range. I think that would be good enough for an Eternity or a Celestial. Problem is, that's not popular in today's mass market, those type of big figures. Add in the cost of plastic going up, unlikely we'd get those two. But, with that said, maybe a HasLab project for an Eternity is possible, or a comic Celestial. Or how about, even if they just made like a 12 or an 18-inch figure, that's just like a less articulation just for a general release to the public. It wouldn't be the exact scale, I know, but just to get some representation would be pretty cool. So I talked about those two characters a lot. How about, and this seems very unlikely because the Eternal movies failed and the Eternal toys failed. How about comic book Eternals? In particular, Icarus and Cersei. Cersei was a popular character in the 90s. She was even an Avenger and had a romance with the Black Knight. So I think Cersei comic look would be pretty cool to have. And Icarus is a Jack Kirby creation with a very unique costume design. Plus he is at a power level equal to Thor, give or take. So I think it would be pretty cool to get an Icarus action figure. Now let's move on to a surprise that in 20 plus years, seriously, Hasbro, Toy Biz, you've never made this character. Crystal. Crystal is the girlfriend of Johnny Storm. Was a very popular character in the Jack Kirby run. And Crystal never got an action figure. And sure, we know the whole team of Inhumans has not been made. But, I mean, really? Crystal? Popular character in the book? Never got an action figure at this point? I mean, what's up with that? Definitely deserved a figure. And now I'd like to talk about three characters who I think would be pretty nice if we got Marvel Legends versions of. Ultimate Thor. We've not had an Ultimate version of Thor, but we did have one in the 3.75-inch range. How about Ultimate Hawkeye? The one when he had the very cool mask on his face. We got a 3.75-inch figure of him. Very nice design. But I think it would be awesome if we could get a 6-inch figure of that ultimate look of Hawkeye. And how about Ultimate Iron Man? Yeah, we did have an Ultimate Iron Man back then, but the quality was just so poor that Ultimate Iron Man deserves a modern-day treatment in terms of his look. And the 3.75-inch Ultimate Iron Man was much better than that poorly made 6-inch figure of years ago. How about Balder the Brave? He was a Thor ally, and Balder the Brave even had a miniseries in the 1980s. And I'd give him in that Walt costume look that he gave him, or give him a Jack Kirby type costume look. Powerful Thor ally and part of his universe. I had skipped this one, but I want to mention him because he got a 5-inch action figure. And that would be Trevor Fritz Roy. He was, in the 1990s, the enemy of Bishop. And he had a unique look, and the 5-inch figure had some clear body armor that you'd put on the character. I thought that use of the plastic to make body armor and his look was really cool. That if Trevor Fritz Roy had a 6-inch action figure, I'd be like, yeah, make it. I'm not going to count this to the list right now, so don't count these next two. I just want to mention them because they'll probably never get an action figure. Bishop's two allies, Malcolm and Randall. They had costumes similar to Bishop, and they got killed off in the books way too early. But I just thought it'd be pretty cool if we made Bishop's two friends as action figures. But I don't think they're popular enough to ever get recognition. So I am not going to count that as part of the list. I just want to mention it. Okay, continuing. How about, and we never got this action figure, and it would be so cool if we did, the Egyptian-inspired spacesuit of Iron Man that he wore in Galactic Storm, which was a big crossover. That motive look with the Egyptian-type helmet and that spacesuit, it looked so cool, people. I mean, such a nice design. That would make an awesome action figure. And just a very nice armor look. And if you want to talk Iron Man, how about his deep diving yellow suit or water armor? He had a 5-inch action figure back in the day, I think. But that yellow suit, when he goes into the water, would look kind of cool as a toy on your shelf. And then we have a pretty obscure Iron Man armor, but I liked it personally. Was around issues 290 or so. Before he had the iconic modular armor, he had a similar design called the Telepresence suit. And the Telepresence suit was a remote armor he would remote control. It kind of looked like the modular armor, but it was not. And I think that would be a nice toy for another Iron Man armor. And maybe you could possibly reuse some of the parts from the modular armor. I'm not sure, but might be possible. Rounding out the list with a few more to go, people. If you're still listening, thanks. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Thumbs up. And let's go to Ramatat and Immortus. Kang has two different versions of him. And Ramatat was an Egyptian motive. And his early look in the Fantastic Four, his first appearance, was a very nice story. He was a version of Kang, but the Ramatat look, pretty cool. Immortus, another pretty cool look to get as a toy. Marvel Comics, The Rose, 1980s look. Richard Fisk, when he wore a white suit and he had the mask. I'm not talking Blood Rose, which was kind of like a 1990s. They tried to make him like a supervillain, an action hero. I didn't like that look. But the Rose in the white suit, which all they had to do was modify the white suit look, the suit figure. You could make him pretty easy. But the Rose would be pretty cool. I'm going to count these next few Spider-Man villains as... I'm going to mention them, even though there's 3, I'm going to count that as one slot in the video here I'm making. Just one character slot instead of 3 individuals. How about the Enforcers, Fancy Dan, the Ox, and Montoya? Those 3 characters will probably never get an action figure, realistically. Would be pretty cool to get as a 3-pack. You know, they're a set. They're the early Spider-Man villains. But I will give a different character slot to the Big Man. The Big Man was... He only had 1 appearance in the early run. He was just a costume disguise for another character who was just making himself up to look bigger than he really was. And the Big Man was an early crime boss in the Spider-Man run. I doubt he will ever get an action figure, but I just want to mention him. Next, another character who they could kind of easily make if they reused the suit body is the Crime Master. His original look, he wore just a brown suit with a unique face sculpt and a hat. Crime Master, I don't think it would be very hard to make this character. Again, he's so minor that he'll probably never get a figure, but I want to mention him. And how come we never got a Molten Man 6-inch figure? We had a Toy Biz 5-inch one, and it looked really bad. He's very easy to make. All you have to do is get a basic body mold of a medium-sized character, a new head, some tights, and he's just basically almost nude in terms of a design sense, and painted gold. And you got Molten Man. The only question is, if you make him, do you use a dull yellow paint? Or just like you make the Silver Surfer very shiny, I would use a shiny or a metallic plastic to make Molten Man look gold in terms of color. Another obscure Spider-Man villain who will probably never get a figure is called the Looter, also known as the Meteor Man. He had a very nice costume design, especially with the full mask on. He'll probably never get a toy, but I just want to mention him because he looks cool. And we're rounding out this top 50 here with the last couple of ones here. How about, because he had a 5-inch figure, Cameron Hodge in his Phalanx type look. He had a really nice 5-inch figure in terms of design. I'd like to see a 6-inch version of Cameron Hodge, Phalanx. And how about the Executioner? He was a 1990s popular villain that they were hyping up. He had a 5-inch figure that looked really cool. The Executioner. And we're going to round out this top 50 here with the last possible AOA looks. AOA Abyss. The AOA was his name, Mikkel. And the AOA Sinister. We need to round out the Horsemen of the AOA. So those three need to get action figures. Now we did get a Nemesis / Holocaust figure, but that was so long ago and most people cannot find it or afford to buy it now. So if they made a new version of Nemesis or Holocaust, that would be cool. I'm not counting him as part of this list because they already made him as a figure, but I do think he deserves an upgrade. And then we're going to round out final 3. AOA Quicksilver. Such a nice costume design. I mean, when you check out the AOA, look at the Quicksilver costume. Very nice design. I think that deserves a figure. And Angel. The AOA Angel was designed by Joe Madureira. And if you look at Joe Mad's artwork, almost every design that he personally did was the best version of the AOA universe characters. Better than the other artists, and I will outright say it. The AOA Joe Mad designs were better than the other AOA artists making the character looks. He made AOA Sabretooth. He made AOA Magneto. He made AOA Rogue. I think he made the AOA Holocaust. The AOA Angel is another winner costume design. It looks so nice. So, hopefully we get the AOA Angel. And finally, the AOA Gambit. You got Rogue. You got Magneto. It's time to get AOA Gambit. So, that's my list, people. Thanks for watching this long talk. But I really want to point out, when I was thinking, you have 20 plus years of Legends. And most of the characters on the list that I mentioned here, over 40 of them, have never, ever got an action figure in 6-inch scale. A few of them, quite a few, over 10, give or take, have had 5-inch figures. Never got a 6-inch figure. And a few of them, like the 2099 stuff, popular variants, if you want to make, of established heroes, looks like they'll never get a figure. And a few of them have had figures that were 6-inch, but they were so poorly made back then that we need a modern, upgraded take on the character for our collections. So, that's the list. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when future videos are out. Stay safe, my friends, and I will talk to you later.